Hey everyone, it's Tobes, and welcome to your second monitor. I just hit 1,000 subscribers. Hooray! To everyone who helped me hit this milestone, truly thank you. I am grateful and humbled that you've decided to stick around and listen to me talk about cards. Genuinely, thank you so much. Alright, on to the main event. Wizards has recently announced a third version of the Mystery Booster product, Mystery Booster Commander Edition. If you haven't participated in a Mystery Booster draft, it feels like drafting a cube curated by someone with a deep love for the game and a collection big enough that it deserves a house of its own. All Mystery Boosters are beautiful, and Mystery Booster 1 was the first paper Magic I played at the end of my long hiatus from the game, so it has a special place in my heart. There are some differences between Commander Edition and the previous two Mystery Boosters, of course. Commander Edition has over 2,000 cards in it, from across Magic's history, as well as the usual playtest cards and alternate frames and other sweet inclusions. But the big difference is that Commander Edition is meant for Commander Draft, a super fun combination of both formats. The general idea is that you draft 2 cards per pack, then build a 60-card deck with a commander that follows the color identity rules per commander, but not the singleton rule per limited. Then you play a 4-person game with 40 life per player. Different versions of the format have extra rules like giving all non-multicolored commanders partner and things like that, but that's the gist. What's special about the Commander Edition, however, is the subject of our video today. The new rare commanders. There's one in every pack, so just opening Mystery Booster Commander Edition gives you a chance to snag one. At the time of recording, there isn't a way to get your hands on packs of Commander Edition outside of MagicCon, starting at MagicCon Atlanta in November, or, via Secret Layers Festival and a box offerings. That said, the hype around this product is high, and I won't be surprised if you can get these commanders as singles before too long. But what are these new commanders? You may have already been exposed to some of them and the references they contain online. Well, today I'm going to go over each of them in light detail, reading the card, giving you an overview of its connections in the lore of Magic, and maybe offering some of my own thoughts. So, let's get to it. We're going to start with our Rulebreaker cards. These are a bunch of cards that allow a specific group or groups of extra cards to be included in deck construction while ignoring the color identity rule, or they otherwise break the basic rules of Commander. We'll get into each one individually. So we're going to start things off with Seluma, Light of Aysen. This is a 4/4 Legendary Angel Warrior for 4 and a white with Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander could have angel cards of any color identity and any basic land cards. So the idea here is you build a mono-white angels deck, but you don't have to stick to mono-white with just your angels. You can play any angel card as well as any basic lands so that you're able to produce mana in your land base to cast those non-mono-white angels. Seluma also has flying, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, we return target angel card from our graveyard to the battlefield. So Seluma is from Ulgrotha, which is the Plane of Homelands, which was a set that came out when I was first playing Magic in the mid-90s, and I did not know how to evaluate cards then, so I thought it was a great set. I thought it was a cool vibe. The art for it was so evocative, like so much Magic in the 90s. And it was my favorite set back in the day, which says a lot about me, I guess. Anyway, Aysen is the center of white magic on Ulgrotha, and it houses the Serra Aviary. Serra, the Planeswalker Serra, is the creator of Serra Angels, which was sort of the iconic angel of the 90s. I mean, there were other angels, but Serra was the one who sort of created all the angels, is what it felt like, and it was true at least for a long time. And so Ulgrotha was her third home after Dominaria and her own plane that she created of Serra's Realm. Remember, back in the 90s, and before the Mending, Planeswalkers were basically gods. So making their own plane was a great feat, but it wasn't out of anyone's reach. So yeah, Seluma is a pretty cool callback to all that. Next on our list, we have Tolabow, Loch Rascal. This is 2 and double blue for a 3/2 Legendary Otter with Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander can have instant and sorcery cards of 1 additional color, not in this commander's color identity, and any basic land cards. So you sort of choose a color, and you could put any instants and sorceries of that color, or of blue, into this deck. That's pretty neat. It also says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you make a 1/1 blue and red Otter creature token with prowess. So Tolabow is clearly calling back to, of course, all the Bloomborough stuff, where otters are the blue-red archetype creature. It cares about prowess and casting instants and sorcery spells. We're getting a lot of otters. However, there is a note about this, which is Tolabow is the Loch Rascal. There is not a restriction to Lochs being on only one plane, but we only really have seen them mostly on Eldraine. So it's possible, with Tolabow having these little horns that he's got, maybe not being a Bloomburrow otter, but actually being an Eldraine otter. We've never seen Eldraine otters, but, it's a hint that maybe this is from a different plane than we expect. Throne of Eldraine is my favorite set, and Eldraine's my favorite plane, so I would like to vote that Tolabow's from there. Unless, of course, he starts breaking Commander the way that, they thought Lutri would, so maybe not then. Next, we've got a bit of a weird one. This is Valko Indorian. 3 and a black for a 2/4 legendary human wizard with Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander can have Phyrexian cards of any color identity and any basic lands, and Phyrexian creatures you control have Menace and Lifelink. So Valko is a weird guy. He worked for the Tolarian Academy. He was a Tolarian human linguist who was trying to translate Phyrexian language but became corrupted by it. It is a reference, this is so weird, to Beadle and Grimm's Behold New Phyrexia product that came out as part of the All Will Be One set. In that product, you would get a journal that was a translation notes journal of Valko, translating what was called the Shard, which was a book or a piece of lore, or a piece of this language, obtained from Phyrexian sleeper agents on Dominaria, and then you get to use his notes to translate it. It's just a really cool inclusion on just such a weird, such a weird choice of reference, but a really neat one, because the Phyrexian language, as you can see here on this Phyrexian Swamp from Original Jumpstart, as well as the flavor text of Valko himself, it's complicated, it's weird, it uses interesting mouth sounds that humans can't make without help. As you can see, Valko's jaw is kind of doing some weird stuff as he tries to imitate it. It's just really neat. Also interesting about Valko is that there was a unknown event playtest card for Valko originally at the 2023 Barcelona unknown event that previewed the Rulebreaker mechanic. This doesn't work exactly like the Valko Indorian Commander Masters, Mystery Booster Commander Edition version. But yeah, it's neat to be able to see him this way as well, and as an Azorius card. Next up, we have one that I've been waiting for a while. It's the Unluckiest Planeswalker. This is 2 and a red for a 4 loyalty legendary Planeswalker with no subtype, because we don't know this person's name. It has Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander can have aura cards of any color identity and any basic land cards. It has a +1 loyalty ability, add 1 mana of any color. When you spend this mana to cast an aura spell this turn, make a 1/1 red gremlin creature token. And -3, discard your hand and draw cards equal to twice the number of auras you control. For each aura attached to you, attach it to an opponent of your choice, and the Unluckiest Planeswalker can be your commander. So this is a not particularly deep cut, but a really cool one, because way back in Commander 2017, we got a cycle of curse cards. Curses that would enchant a player, and whenever the enchanted player was attacked, they would do something, and it would also help us as well, or help their opponents. And if you'll note, all of these have this guy in the art. It's pretty neat, even in addition to this Flame Blitz, which shows him getting just burninated, and the blast it not again flavor text is so funny. The lore behind this guy is that he is constantly being cursed by Lind, Cheerful Tormentor. This is a card that we got only in the set booster and collector boosters for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And as you can see in her hands, she's got a little voodoo doll of the Unluckiest Planeswalker, who we used to call Curse Guy because he's on all these curse cards. But yeah, we don't know what he's done to Lind, so maybe we'll get more of his story, but yeah, I think this is pretty cute. Next, we have Maular, the next evolution. 5 and double green for a 10/10 legendary dinosaur mutant with Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander can have creature cards with mana value 7 or greater of any color identity and any basic land cards. And whenever a creature we control with mana value 7 or greater attacks, we double its power and toughness until end of turn. So Maular is just neat. This is a mutant dinosaur, probably from Ikoria. We did have dinosaurs in Ikoria, but we didn't have any mutants in Ikoria, even though it featured the mutate mechanic, which is pretty neat. And as you can see, Maular is sort of designed around 7 as a number. You know, it's a 7 mana creature. It cares about mana value 7 or more for other creature cards, and yeah, like it just means you want big stuff, which is reasonable for Ikoria because it's full of big stuff. This is the first mutant dinosaur in universe as well. We've had some in the Jurassic World collection and in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set, but Maular was the first one actually in universe. And yeah, just cool Ikoria big dino. Why not? Next up is the Everforger. 6 generic mana for a 4/5 legendary artifact creature construct with Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander can have artifact, creature, and equipment cards of any color, identity, and any basic land cards. And whenever you cast an artifact, creature, or equipment spell, you may copy that spell, but only once each turn. So not a lot of lore here for the Everforger, just we know that this is a Rulebreaker creature that cares about artifact creatures and cares about equipment. I don't think that its name is a reference to Sunforger, because obviously it's just forging things. But yeah, no real information about the lore behind this thing. It's just nice to be able to have a colorless equipment commander, I suppose. All right, now we have Grizzlegom, Hurloon Hero. 5, a red and a green for a 4/4 legendary Minotaur warrior, or Minotaur. I usually say Minotaur. Not really sure why I called it a Minotaur right then. It has Rulebreaker that says a deck with this commander can have any land cards. And whenever Grizzlegom attacks, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each plains you control, draw a card for each island you control, each opponent loses a life for each swamp you control, put a 1/1 counter on Grizzlegom for each mountain you control, and you gain 1 life for each forest you control. Now notably, this Rulebreaker ability doesn't say basic lands of any type. You can have any lands, and you're kind of encouraged to have lands with multiple types because you want to maximize how much value you get out of Grizzlegom whenever he attacks. So this is a pretty neat card. It is a reference to the card Last Stand. Grizzlegom is a Hurloon Minotaur that led the coalition against the Phyrexian invasion of Dominaria. Pretty sweet. It shows him in this art bursting out of a Phyrexian Gargantua's stomach, which is part of the invasion block story. So to be clear, I'm talking about the Phyrexian invasion of Dominaria, not the All Will Be One and March of the Machine story of the Phyrexian invasion of the multiverse. So this is pretty neat. We get to see Grizzlegom again in this Mark Zug art as compared to the Ron Spencer art from the original. Yeah, good to see him coming back and doing more work. I guess over the course of the war, his horns changed direction. And last but not least, although maybe in size, among our Rulebreakers is Whtz, the Bibliophile. A 1/3 legendary homunculus for 1 a white and a blue with Rulebreaker. A deck with this commander has no maximum deck size. And pay 3 and tap, you draw a card and gain a life, but it costs 3 less to activate if you had 200 or more cards in your starting deck. This is obviously a reference to Battle of Whtz. This is a thing that is such a cool card. It's a really fun alternate victory condition in Magic, but you just can't play it in Commander because in Commander you have a maximum and minimum mandatory size of your deck of 100 cards. We're not talking about the fact that companions can be your 101st card. So Battle of Whtz is rad. It's just cool, like being able to be the person who brings a 200 plus card deck to the table is ridiculous, and it's a memorable thing. And so now with Whtz, we can do it. That sounds awesome. And Whtz even lets us tap and draw a card and gain a life for no mana cost if we are playing a Battle of Whtz deck. I also really like the fact that Whtz is escaping from a library on what may be Innistrad, and in Whtz's little, like, it's not glasses, is it a helmet? in any case, there's some water in there. So is it from flooding? Is it because Whtz is crying, having to leave the library? I don't know. I like this little friend. So that covers all of our rule breakers. So what else does Mystery Booster Commander have for us? We're going to find out in Wooburg order, starting with Ekthi, Contaminator Priest. 3 and a white for a 3/3 legendary Phyrexian Cleric that gives all other Phyrexians we control +1/+1, and gives each equipment we control living weapon. So when those equipment enter, we make a 0/0 black Phyrexian Germ creature token and attach the equipment to it. So essentially all of our equipment spells become creature spells. And even the ones that don't give a bonus to toughness let that creature still survive because the germ is Phyrexian, so it's going to have +1/+1 from Ekthi. The only cards that would automatically die from this are ones that give -1 or more toughness, like maybe Skull Clamp. But that's reasonable. You play a Skull Clamp, immediately draw 2 cards, and maybe get some death triggers. Seems pretty good. So Ekthi is a reference to Scar's Block. This is a member of the Machine Orthodoxy on New Phyrexia. Very similar to Master Splicer in that it makes it so every time we cast something, we get an artifact creature. The Splicer cycle gives us a bunch of artifact creatures in the form of golems, so Ekthi is sort of a different version of it, and cares about the living weapon mechanic, which is, again, a Scar's Block thing. Batterskull, seen here, is sort of my pick for the most notable of the living weapons, or famous, so there you go. Next, we have Grakk the Pacifist. 1 and a white for a 4/3 legendary orc that can't attack or block, and says whenever we cast an aura spell that targets a creature an opponent controls, we draw a card, but only once each turn. So I was so excited to see this card, not just because it has gorgeous Aaron Miller art, but because this is a reference to pacifism. This is actually the same guy on Pacifism, the original Pacifism art from Mirage. This, if you've seen any other Robert Bliss art, you know this is just characteristic of the way that he made magic art. But I remember being a kid in the 90s and Mirage Block came out and I thought it was so cool. I thought Visions was the best set ever printed. But original Mirage, I would just look at these cards and just look at the art on it and be like, what is going on here? This is so amazing. Just, you can see in this art, he's got the little fawns and other creatures like the flowers. Just don't know who this person is, but it seems so cool. And I gotta tell you, again, you just heard me say a minute ago that during Homelands, I was like, oh, these cards seem good. Pacifism seemed unbeatable to me. It's like, this is permanent removal. It stops creatures from doing anything. Because remember, back in the day, there were plenty of creatures that had activated abilities, but most of the time, you were just struggling to attack and block with them. And so for 2 mana in white, you could just essentially remove a creature permanently from having any impact on the board. I don't know, just Pacifism I just have a lot of great memories of this card, and particularly this art and printing of it. So Grakk is really, really neat. Being able to cast aura spells that target our opponent's stuff and have those auras replace themselves, sort of as a kind of Enchantress vibe for that, seems really cool, and it even synergizes with auras like Pacifism itself. So yeah. Okay, let's move on to Nivea, Beloved Battlemage. It might be Nivea, but I think it's Nivea. In any case, she's 2 and a white for a 3/1 legendary human wizard warrior that says whenever a creature we control becomes blocked, we may untap it and remove it from combat. And for 5 and triple white and sacrifice Nivea, create an Achroma Angel of Wrath token. So we get to just make an Achroma, a 5 and triple white legendary 6/6 angel with flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and red. So Nivea was a pit fighter on Dominaria and was Ixidor's lover, Ixidor pictured here. When she was killed by Phage, Ixidor created Achroma, Angel of Wrath, to look just like Nivea. This is kind of a reference in the art. You can see the trees in the background and their beautiful flowers sort of make wings behind Nivea. But yeah, she makes Achroma because Achroma was inspired by her. That's why they basically look alike. They both have this awesome purple hair. And yeah, interestingly, her first ability, the untap and remove a creature from combat when it becomes blocked, is the unnamed mechanic Gust Cloak from Onslaught, where she comes from. So yeah, pretty sweet. I really like Nivea. Just what a wonderful Winona Nelson art, with just one more Magic artist that never misses. All right, next we have Worzel and Thomil, two separate cards that both call back to some of the earliest Magic fiction. Worzel comes from Worzel's Story, which was part of the Alpha Rulebook, published in 1993 as a little story talking about Worzel fighting Thomil, and we get to see like how these planeswalkers are battling each other as sort of an introduction to what fictionally is happening in Magic. And later there was another story called Rorika's Tale, originally published 1994 in the Magic Pocket Player's Guide. So yeah, these are rival wizards that come from those stories. So Worzel is a planeswalker, a Worzel planeswalker, with 4 loyalty for 1 and triple white, that has, for 0 generic mana, we make a 1/1 white cat creature token that we can tap to put a loyalty counter on each planeswalker we control. This is a reference to Rorika, who is Worzel's friend, familiar, Worzel's cat, so that Rorika's Tale story I mentioned from the Pocket Player's Guide in 1994 is told from Rorika's perspective, from this cat's perspective, watching these two wizards battle. The other abilities that Worzel has are -1 loyalty. Look at the top 6 cards of your library, and you may reveal a planeswalker or basic planes card from among them and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Or we can -8 Worzel and make 10 Scrib Sprites tokens, which are 1/1 flyers that cost a green. And of course, Worzel the Protector can be your commander. So Worzel's whole deal here is, it's this cool mage who's learning magic and learning white magic during the stories. She summons Scrib Sprites, and she casts a Circle of Protection black in Rorika's Tale, so that's why she's called Worzel the Protector. But then we have Thomil, the Destroyer. As you can see, that's a sort of balance there, and also if you look back, the arts of these cards are sort of mirroring each other. Thomil has this black color identity, obviously, to show the sort of black magic that he uses a lot of. This is what the card reads. 3 and double black for a 4 loyalty Thomil planeswalker with +2, make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. 0, we can sacrifice a creature, and if we do, add triple black. And -5, create a Lord of the Pit token. And of course, Thomil can be your commander. The whole being able to make zombies is just a classic thing that Magic can do, and happens in Worzel's story as he makes a Scathed Zombies creature. His second ability is basically just Dark Ritual. It does require us to sack a creature, but we're going to be making zombies to do so it goes along with that kind of vibe. And it's also a thing he does, sacrificing creatures in Rorika's Tale. And then, as you can see, his ultimate makes a Lord of the Pit, which is also something he did in Rorika's Tale. And you can see the smoke and the sort of demon in the background of Thomil's art as a reference to Lord of the Pit. Lord of the Pit, also an incredible card from Mark Tadine that I remember from the 90s. I did not have this alpha printing of it, but just very, very cool stuff here for Thomil. And the Worzel and Thomil kind of like mirrored pairs thing. That's why I put Thomil into the white cards section, because I wanted you to be able to see them together, since that's where they come from. Next up, an actual white card. It's Yume, Chronicler of Valor. 1 and a white for a 1/2 legendary human druid that says the first spell we cast during each of our turns has assist, and when we cast that spell, if another player spent mana to cast it, we and that player each draw a card. So this is a pretty cool callback to a couple of different things. Yume is part of the living historians on Kamigawa that used the Omen Paths to collect stories, and she's a halftime performer on Kylum in Valor's Reach, which is the big stadium that you see here that Battle Bond is set in. Also, you can see in here in Skystreamer the assist mechanic that comes from Battle Bond. So that's pretty neat. We saw Yume for the first time in concept art back in February 22 February 2022, in a world building segment for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And so those living historians on Kamigawa, it seems like she's a part of them, but she's come to Kylum, to Valor's Reach, to basically tell awesome stories with magical, spiritual, visual components as a halftime show. So I think that's pretty neat as a combination of like Battlebond and Kamigawa kind of vibes, Kylum Kamigawa. I wouldn't have expected that, so Yume seems really neat. Next, we have another card that I've been waiting for a long time. It's Dyfed the Guiding Hand. 3 and double blue for a 4 loyalty Dyfed Planeswalker that if we +1, we make 2 tapped Power Stone tokens. If we -X, we get to untap X target artifacts. And if we -6, we search our library for an artifact card, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle, and of course Dyfed can be our commander. Dyfed is a really important character in the history of Magic because Dyfed is the planeswalker that showed Yawgmoth back during the story of the Thrawn that there are other planes, and took him to a abandoned plane, not really abandoned because its creator's body was there, and that plane would become original Phyrexia with a portal, stable portal stabilized by 2 Power Stones in the caves of Koilos under the city of under the Thran capital city, which has a name and I'm not remembering it. In any case, Dyfed makes Power Stones, which is a big thing back at the Thrawn Empire. Dyfed in the art, it seems to reference Glacian, as you can kind of see the same sort of background and Power Stones in terms of the nature of the multiverse. Her amulet on her forehead is the amulet she gives to Yawgmoth so that he can summon her, and you know she was just fascinated with him. Yawgmoth was a real fascinating, charismatic dude that was also incredibly evil. But yeah, unfortunately, later in the story, spoilers for a 25-year-old book, I guess, Dyfed gets tortured to death by Yawgmoth as he tries to figure out what part of the body the Planeswalker Spark lives in. Weird stuff happening back in the day with Planeswalkers, how they're essentially living gods and beings of pure thought that don't even really have bodies, but they could also just sort of be stabbed sometimes if the story needed it. Anyway, if you have a chance, take a look at the story of the Thrawn, narrated by Spice 8 Rack. I will link that video in this video's description because it's a terrific overview of the story told by one of the best Magic content creators out there. I aspire to be Spice. Hey Spice, if you're watching, thanks for all your work. Yeah, so that's Dyfed. I'm super excited to see her actually pictured in Magic now. And this is one more art with so many beautiful details. I could just look at this forever. So yeah. Next up, we have Flitwing, Lyev Detective. This is a 1/1 legendary fairy detective for 2 and a blue. She has flying, and whenever we would create 1 or more tokens, we may create that many clue tokens instead. So not a lot to say about Flitwing. Clearly this is a reference to Murders at Karlov Manor. The Lyev are part of the Azoria Senate on Ravnica. Obviously it's on Ravnica because that's where Murders at Karlov Manor takes place. And Flitwing is here, looking for detectives, or looking for clues among all the other detectives on Ravnica as part of I don't remember the name of it, the Magicological Agency, what people think of as the 11th Guild. It's not really, but yeah, the big group of people that was doing all this investigating during the murders that happened during Murders at Karlov Manor. This section's a mess. Let's just move on. Next up is Grandmother Gobi. 2 and double blue for a 2/2 legendary Merfolk wizard that says whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we counter that spell, and then we create a number of 1/1 blue Merfolk creature tokens equal to the amount of mana we used to cast that spell. So a Gobi is a small fish, typically a bottom dweller. Yeah, there is a specific genus of Gobis called the Babka, which is Russian for grandmother, so kind of cool intersectional linguistics things going on here. And really, this is sort of a reference to Dovescape, which counters non-creature spells and gives us birds. Grandmother Gobi counters non-creature spells that we cast and gives us merfolk. So yeah, kind of neat. We get to turn all of our non-creature spells into creatures, a whole bunch of little tokens. I have found that this card uses slush art from 1999 that was possibly originally meant for the unpublished sequel to Unglued 2, the obligatory sequel. But I get the impression, and I know that this is totally anachronistic, but the Dieter Lizzie art style, by the way, loved Dieter Lizzie, so glad to see their art back in the game. I don't know, it just sort of recalls some of the Lorwyn art, not necessarily the Jesper Eisling art, whose name I can never pronounce properly, but I love his art. Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of the aunties among those goblins on Lorwyn. I know, obviously, Grandmother Gobi is a merfolk, but I don't know, maybe there's some connections there. Maybe I'm just making things up. In any case, Fishscape is a pretty cool commander. Next, we have Gustha Ebbasdotter, 3 and double blue for a 3/3 legendary human wizard with protection from red, and whenever we cast our first spell during each opponent's turn, we draw 3 cards, put 2 on the top of 2 cards from our hand on top of our library in any order. So, yeah, this is a pretty clear reference to Gustha from the flavor text of some Ice Age cards. Gustha was a royal mage at Keldor during the time of the Ice Age in Dominaria, and we got to see things like her text in Brainstorm, which is exactly what she does when we cast our first spell during each of our opponent's turns. We get a free Brainstorm. The fact that she has protection from red is because she's quoted on Hydroblast, so kind of the same as protection. Also, like, Karl Kopinski, not a slouch when it comes to art. Just love seeing a character on a Kopinski piece that is connected to a Chris Rush piece and a Kaya Folio piece. Just incredible artists. A callback to Ice Age, which I truly loved back in the day, the set that I started Magic playing. So yeah, really cool with Gustha here. Next is the incomprehensible Sash and Waistcoat Unmin. What's going on here with these guys? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you about. This is a 2/2 legendary insect rogue for 1 and a white that says whenever a face-down creature attacks one of your opponents, it can't be blocked this combat, and manifest the top card of your library for 3 generic mana, and any player may activate this ability, but only as a sorcery. Neat. It lets you flip over your face-down creatures and make them unblockable, and it gives access to manifest to everyone at the table. So this is a weird reference to the Unmin that Ixodor created during the Story of Onslaught block. Unmin are basically living portals that sometimes are given bodies in the story, not usually, but as you can probably guess which one is Sash and which one is Waistcoat. This part of the story is when the Cabal Patriarch gives them cockroach bodies in exchange for a promise to kill Akroma and Phage. Yeah, let's see if these rogues these like little bug dudes can kill Phage. Spoilers, not so much. Next up, we have Boss Uramon, Shadow's Reach. 3 and a black for a 2/2 legendary human rogue with Shadow that says attacking ninjas and rogues you control have death touch, and whenever one or more ninjas and or rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 black rat rogue creature token. So Boss Uramon, way back during original Kamigawa block, was a criminal overlord in Takenuma, swamp on Kamigawa, and this was during the Kami War, of course, because that was the story of Kamigawa Cycle, the original Kamigawa block. And she was one of the primary worshippers of the Myojin of Night's Reach, which is kind of why her name is Shadow's Reach. It's not as dark as the night, but she considers herself sort of a representative of the Myojin. That seems cool. Also, wonderful Darren Bader art that really calls back to the art of Betrayers of Kamigawa, specifically just any of that Kamigawa, those Kamigawa black cards way back in the day. I really like this. Oh, but next up, wow, it's Istvan, Butcher of Eln. Istvan, Butcher of Eln, is 1 and triple black for a 1/3 legendary human that attacks each combat if able. We prevent all damage that would be dealt to Istvan by creatures, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we put 2 counters on him. This is Uncle Istvan, one of the scariest, coolest cards that I remember playing with way back in the 90s. Originally published in the Dark, it is questionable as to why this is a 1/3 for 4, but can't have damage dealt to him by creatures. That's just really, really cool. This is a card that a lot of people play as a Rule 0 legend in Commander because it's just a really neat creature and it's named. So why isn't it legendary? Well, because we didn't really have a lot of legends back in the day, but it does say Summon Uncle Istvan on it. So I think if you were to Sharpie in the word Uncle, if you could fit it in there on Istvan Butcher of Eln, that's reasonable. Very, very cool card. His title comes from his name being invoked as an exclamation back in the days of Dark Legacy. This is a novel from way back in the day in early Magic, primarily set in the Eln Forest, so that's why we know he's there. Next, we have Kuroki, Thief of Talents. 4 and a black for a 4/4 legendary spirit with menace that says at the beginning of your end step, target opponent may draw 4 cards. If they do, look at that player's hand and you may cast a spell from their hand without paying its mana cost. And if they don't, put 2 1/1 counters on Kuroki. So this is a really cool card that sort of calls to mind Thief of Sanity. Makes a clear reference to it in the Kuroki's name. Just seems like a neat sort of what people call a devil's deal. It's just a bad deal, sort of a little mini game. It's not exactly a mini game, I guess, but the idea that they can draw 4, but if they do, we get to look at all their cards in hand, including those 4, and maybe cast one for free. Otherwise, our Menace commander is going to get bigger. So yeah, just a kind of a neat effect here on our commander. Also, interestingly, the concept art for this Adam Veheg piece was created by Steve Prescott for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty as for a card called Kami of Venom. So you can see the sort of venomous nature here, I suppose. I also really like all the little masks attached to its knees, elbows. Let's move on. Next, we have Miss Highwater. I was so excited to see Miss Highwater show up in Magic as a card. This is 2 and double black for a 5/3 legendary demon advisor with menace that says whenever Miss Highwater deals combat damage to a player who doesn't have a contract counter, they may discard their hand. If they do, they draw 7 cards and get a contract counter. And for as long as they have a contract counter, when they lose the game, for each artifact and creature they controlled, create a token that's a copy of it. So this is a really, really sweet reference to a book written by Brandon Sanderson called Children of the Nameless. It's, I guess, sort of more of a novella, but it's free online if you can find it. It's not that hard to find. It's a great story. It is the introduction of Davriel Kane, which is a cool character in his own right. And Miss Highwater, I should say, is Davriel Kane's one of the 3 demons that hangs out with him and constantly tempts him. And it turns out she has a real talent for paperwork and sort of administrative assistant or executive assistant style work. And so she ends up working with Davriel on all the things he needs, basically. She's just a really cool character and is well written. And her effect feels a lot like Contract from Below, which is an anti-card, which is no longer legal in any format in Magic. But yeah, just kind of a cool reference to a very, very old, I guess, legacy of Magic. You know, the fact that Annie exists, I was playing back in the day when Annie was still a thing, just not in any serious way. And so yeah, getting to have this sort of demonic contract thing you're doing with Ms. Highwater just seems really neat. Yeah, I like this card. Next we have Olinda the Oblivious. 3 and a black for a 3/3 legendary skunk rogue that says whenever Olinda enters or attacks, for each opponent, put an odor counter on up to 1 target creature that player controls without an odor counter on it. Each of those creatures has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life, for as long as it has an odor counter on it. With reminder text, they continue to smell after Olinda has left the battlefield. So this is an obvious reference to Obsidian Fireheart, with one of the coolest pieces of reminder text in Magic that says the land continues to burn after Obsidian Fireheart has left the battlefield. A piece of reminder text that means nothing rules-wise, but explains the rules in such an intuitive way that players are going to be able to remember it and understand it very easily. So this kind of reference is just really great to see in, this massive burning elemental, and then this really cute little skunk friend from Bloomburrow, and you can see all of the little critters in the background just not having a great time with this. But, Olinda's fine. Olinda is oblivious. Just really cute. A great reference. I love that they brought back the Obsidian Fireheart style of reminder text. And if you're interested to know, which probably you are because that's what this whole video is about, this art was originally on Bloomburrow booster tins that you could buy back in the day. There were 2 other tins, I believe, but this is the only one that had Olinda on it, and we didn't even have a card for her at the time, so yeah, that's Olinda. Coming up next is Sahir, Visitor in Darkness. 1 and double black for a 3/3 legendary human wizard with an Eminence ability. Eminence is back, but don't worry, it's not as broken. It says at the beginning of our upkeep, Sahir deals 1 damage to us, and this triggers only if Sahir is in the command zone or on the battlefield, so it still triggers in the command zone as well. That's Eminence. And it says, whenever a source we control deals exactly 1 damage to us, and whenever a spell or ability we control causes us to lose exactly 1 life, we put a +1/+1 counter on Sahir, and if this is the second time this ability is resolved this turn, we draw a card. So this is a sweet, sweet reference to a very, very old card in Magic, Juzam Djinn, which is a 4 mana. It's hard to see there from the Arabian Nights printing, but it's 2 and double black for a 5/5 that does 1 damage to us during our upkeep. Because way back in the day, during Magic's very first expansion, we didn't have high rate creatures like this. Like a 4 mana 5/5, it's crazy. Having it cost us 1 life every turn in the form of that damage is really, really cool. So yeah, this was a sweet card with, again, incredible Mark Tadine art, just classic. I love the Thousand Nights and a Night is my very favorite book, and so the Arabian Nights expansion, I came into Magic after it, but it just lived in my dreams back in the day. So yeah, Sahir is a really cool character. As you can see, his sort of headdress looks a little bit like the Juzam Djinn's horns. And actually, Sahir in Arabic means magician. So yeah, you can see the mechanical connections to the Djinn, and I guess the sartorial ones as well. Next, we have Balefang the Unslayable. What an incredible name. This is 3 and double red for a 5/5 legendary demon dragon with flying, trample, and protection from angels and from archons, as well as players can't gain life, and when it enters, target opponent creates a tapped Baneslayer Angel token that is goaded for the rest of the game. So as you can see, 3 and double red, a 5/5 flyer that has trample and protection from 2 things. This is a reference to Baneslayer Angel. 5/5 flyer, flying, first strike lifelink, and protection from demons and dragons. Just a classic, awesome bomb that's still great in current Magic with beautiful Greg Staples art. And it's just cool because the Balefang makes a Baneslayer, which it has protection from, and the Baneslayer has protection from it, but they won't have to deal with each other because the Baneslayer token is goaded, so it's going to be attacking the whole game, so they're going to be flying past each other, and that just seems neat. Like, I really like the fact that in this art, Balefang is so huge compared to this angel, but they're not going to be able to stop each other. Just seems like a cool, flavorful way to have this sort of mirror. Next comes Chira All In. 3 and a red for a 3/3 legendary human rogue that says whenever you discard 1 or more cards at random, select 1 or more targets at random, choose 1 or more modes at random, flip 1 or more coins, or roll 1 or more dice, put a 1/1 counter on Chira and make a tapped treasure token. No risks, no reward. Chira is a reference to Gamble, and also the judge's foil of Gamble. Clearly this is all the same person. We're getting to see her doing her stuff. She's sneaking around, she synergizes with any of these random effects, like Gamble. And so, yeah, that's all to say about Chira. She just seems like a cool character. I would like to see her show up in a later set. It may be that she is supposed to be on Zendikar? I don't know. I could see this being in a lot of different places, but yeah, I just would like to see more of Chira. Next, we have Dragon's Smile, the only vehicle in this set, of these commanders at least. 5 and double red for a 4/5 legendary artifact vehicle with flying and crew 3 that says once during each of your turns you may pay 0 mana rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast from exile. And whenever Dragon's Smile deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library, and you may play those cards this turn. So this is a clear reference to Kari Zev, because Dragon's Smile is her ship. It's also a reference to her monkey, Ragavan, because not only is Ragavan kind of first mate, it also cares about us casting things from exile, which Ragavan Nibble Pilferer exiles things and lets us cast them. And sort of its third ability, the when it does combat damage ability, is kind of just Ragavan's ability, but bigger. So yeah, pretty cool. Also, wonderful Justin Sweet art. I really think this looks gorgeous, and it would fit in great with any other sets set on Avishkar, which I'd love to go back to. Next, we have Jabs, Mistress of Mockery. This is 2 and a red for a 2/3 legendary human rogue that says if a triggered ability of a permanent you control but don't own triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So this is a neat reference to a card I really, really love, Captive Audience from Ravnica Allegiance, which is funny because Captive Audience comes in under the control of an opponent, so it means it's a permanent that we own but don't control, which is the opposite of Jabs. But just kind of neat. So Jabs, sort of like the Cult Guildmage, is a member of the Rakdos cult, or the Cult of Rakdos on Ravnica, and is doing satire using puppets of like public figures. And you can see the Cult Guildmage doing satire of Jace, who was the Living Guild Pact for a while. Jabs is doing Rakdos and Krenko, which seems neat. Also interesting is this art was originally meant for Magic Arena China as an alternate for Dead Revels, because in China, Magic has a history of changing its art to conform to certain legal restrictions that they have on the way you can portray, I believe, the dead, or maybe it's just skeletons? Yeah, so kind of a neat little callback for that. Next up, we have Joven and Chandler. This is 2 and triple red for a 3/3 legendary human rogue. They just look like they're having such a great time. It says whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to that artifact's mana value on Joven and Chandler. And for triple red and tap, we gain control of target artifact until end of turn, untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. So this is a sweet card. It's kind of suggesting that what we want to do is steal other people's artifacts and then destroy them. Maybe we attack with them, maybe we sacrifice them, whatever we want to do. Attack with them, of course, if they're an artifact creature. And then we put counters on this great pair of friends, once those cards go to the graveyard. So this is a reference to another pair of creatures from Ulgrotha, Joven and Chandler. I've been looking at these cards forever, since I bought a bunch of Homelands back in the 90s, and they've never looked as happy as in this great Doug Schuler art on the new card, which is great because Doug Schuler did the art for the original too. What's also interesting in this art is that there are callbacks to some older cards, like Ebony Rhino. You can see the rhino in the art. Joven's Ferrets. Got some little ferrets. I have a copy of this still with the beautiful Amy Weber art. And actually, you can see hanging from another ferret's teeth coming out of Chandler's sleeve is Mock Sapphire. So sure, seems cool. Next up, we have Matok Lavamancer. 3 and a red for a 2/3 legendary human barbarian wizard that says whenever a source you control deals damage, if at least one permanent or player was dealt exactly 2 of that damage, exile the top card of your library and you may play it until the end of your next turn. And for a single red and tap, and exile 2 cards from your graveyard, Matok deals 2 damage to any other target. So this is a cool reference to a creature, to a character, from the Pardic Mountains of Otaria on Dominaria, named Matok. This was a guy who was the grandfather of Kamal and of Jeska, and the card is a reference to Grim Lavamancer, because it does the Grim Lavamancer thing. It also has in the art, you can see on his right shoulder, the Obstinate Familiar. It's a little friend there. as well as the sword that he would originally pass to Kamal, who is, his grandson. Yeah, cool character from back during the times of Odyssey block. Next up is Autumn Willow Harmony. 3 and double green for a 3/3 legendary avatar with hexproof. When she enters, make a 1/1 green Forest Dryad land creature token, and whenever you tap a land creature for mana, add an additional green mana. So this is an amazing, amazing callback to the original Autumn Willow, who was the original source of Shroud. Just a really cool character from, again, Ulgratha, the Homeland set, way back in the day. I actually pulled 2 copies of Autumn Willow from separate packs way back in the day, and I remember some other kid totally took advantage of me, and I traded one away, but it's fine. I didn't play competitively, and I still had one, so I guess whatever. Anyway, just a really cool design, and I love that they brought back Margaret Organ Keene and her incredible, beautiful art from the History of Magic to redo Autumn Willow, since she was the original artist for Autumn Willow. And I just am really excited to be able to see her art again. Although we did recently see it again in Lorwyn Eclipsed. Cool. Next up, we have Blor the Impervious. 3 and double green for a 3/3 legendary frog warrior with trample, hexproof, and indestructible. With the flavor text, Blor's defenses are still impervious. Yeah, this is a reference to Overprotect from Bloomburrow with its amazing flavor text, Blor's defenses are impervious by Blor the Impervious. It gives +3/+3, trample, hexproof, and indestructible, and that's what Blor the Impervious is. Just, he is that spell altogether. Yeah, so look out, all of you mono green commander players, or commander player friends. You're going to be seeing some sweet Voltron from Blor pretty soon, I bet. Next, we have a bit of a weird one. This is Glava 5 Advents Mage. 5 and double green for a 5/5 legendary human wizard that says whenever you cast a permanent spell with X in its mana cost, or activate an ability with X in its activation cost that isn't a mana ability, you may have the value of X become 5. Do this only once each turn. So that's pretty sweet. We can pay 0, and the value of X is 5. Once each turn, seems pretty neat, yeah. So this is a weird card. It was originally Slush art. That was Zach Stella's first Magic art, and it got him hired by Wizards back in 2012, and they just never used it. So yeah, it looks like this is a card designed around the number 5. There's 5/5 stats. It sets things to 5. I guess since this is a Hydra and we're talking about X spells, you can consider Glava himself to be 2 heads, because his name means head, so he has a head, and he also has the name head, so there's 5 heads. Kind of a reach, but seems like a possibility. And it seems like he also might be, because of the 5 theme, from the Pentarch tradition that we've seen on Pentarch Paladin and Pentarch Ward in the past. Is that true? We don't know. This is just what it seems like. So yeah, there you go. Next up, we have Greensleeves. 4 and double green for a 5 loyalty Greensleeves Planeswalker that, for +2, we make a giant badger token. It's a 1 double green cost 2/2 badger that says whenever it blocks, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Just a classic card. -3 on Greensleeves, we can mill 3 cards and put all permanents from among them into our hand. And -8 is until end of turn, creatures we control have base power and toughness 8/8 and gain trample. And of course, Greensleeves can be our commander. So Greensleeves is, it's just really, really cool. Greensleeves comes from the Greensleeves trilogy of books. These are novels that feature a archdruid named Greensleeves way back on Dominaria during modern times in Aronia. She was originally, or briefly I should say, a planeswalker. And eventually became a Morrow sorcerer of the Whispering Woods. And once she called a giant badger to aid her in battle, which is why she makes a giant badger for her +2. Just pretty sweet. We've also recently seen a new version of Greensleeves, way back when they were redoing old Legends with Dominaria United. We got to see Greensleeves Morrow sorcerer, so this is her as a Morrow sorcerer. Cool. Next up is Meatsqueak Horde Lord, who looks very happy to see us. This is 2 and a green for a 2/3 legendary squirrel that says whenever another creature dies, create a food token, but only once each turn. And for every 7 foods you control, squirrels you control get +3/+3. This is a squirrel. Probably this is the original squirrel from here on Squirrel's Nest, also carrying an eyeball. Also reference to the Crows in Forest. And in the background of Meatsqueak, you can see a Tarmogoyf head. This is like a very hungry squirrel, I guess. Seems like it's living in this head. It's a squirrel. That's all there is to say about Meatsqueak. That takes care of our monocolored commanders. We're going to go now to our multicolored commanders, starting with one that is another character important in Magic's lore, Venser Visionary Traveler. 3, a white and a blue, for a 4 loyalty Venser Planeswalker that can be our commander, that says each non-token creature we control that wasn't cast from our hand enters with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. For +1, we can exile up to 1 other target permanent we control, and at the beginning of our next end step, we return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control, so a slow flicker. And -2, for each opponent, return up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls to its owner's hand. So Venser is, like I say, he's an important character. He's from Dominaria. He was a planeswalker and an artificer that worked on artifacts, especially inventing them and inventing artifacts that teleport. We've seen him a bunch of times before. We've seen him as the Shaper Savant from Future Sight. We've seen him as a planeswalker. We've even seen a sweet card of his, Venser's Diffusion, which also works with Suspend, or deals with Suspend, sort of like his passive ability helps with Suspend. Just kind of neat. Venser, back during the story, he fought during the Mirrodin Phyrexian War on the side of Mirrodin, of course, with Elspeth and Koth and Karn, and later he sacrificed himself to save Karn, giving his spark to Karn, which is something Karn would later use to revert the completion of Nissa and Ajani after the events of March of the Machine. Next we have the Weaver King. 4, a blue and a black for a 3/6 legendary horror wizard with Shadow, and whenever the Weaver King deals combat damage to a player, they mill that many cards. Then, for each opponent, we put a creature card from that player's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn onto the battlefield under our control. So the Weaver King is the antagonist of the Planar Chaos and Future Sight novels. This was originally a human named Oleg Ildal. He was experimented on by Volrath until he became this horrible, horror. He went insane. He gained the power to possess and control people, and became a shadow during the Wrathy overlay. So lots of bad things happened to this person, but still a bad guy. So yeah, just seems like a really cool card to play though. Next, we have Sifa Grent. And that's it, no epithet. Sifa Grent is 3, a black and a red, for a 4 loyalty Sifa Planeswalker with, whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, +1 to goad up to 2 target creatures, -6, and each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library, and until end of turn we can play those cards without paying their mana costs, and Sifa can be our commander, of course. So Sifa is an interesting antagonist from the IDW run of comics that gave us Dack Fayden. She was an antagonist to Dack Fayden. She's kind of a jerk. She's from Grixis in Alara, and she was Dack Fayden's enemy. I don't want to give away the story, but it's pretty fun, so I recommend you look it up. Her passive ability is a reference to Consume Spirit, where you can see her pictured here as a tie-in card that was published by IDW. Her first ability, her first loyalty ability, goads creatures, and goad was introduced in Conspiracy Take the Crown, which is where Sifa first appeared on Fiora. That's where we got to Dack as well. And since her last ability steals things, it's sort of a mirror, but also like a dark mirror to Dack, because he just takes things, and she takes cards and lets us cast them. So like a more evil version of it, I guess. I just like how she's supposed to be like an antagonist card that's meant to mess with Dack in all these ways. Next, we have Ashaya's Enduring Bond. 1, a red and a green for a legendary sorcery that has the text Ashaya's Enduring Bond can be your commander. This is the first time we've ever seen a sorcery that can be your commander. However, it is a legendary sorcery, so we can only cast it if we control a legendary creature or planeswalker. And it says, discover X, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this spell. Which means the more we cast this, the more commander tax we're going to be paying on it, so it's going to be a bigger discover number every time we use it. Really, really neat design here. So yeah, Ashaya is Ashaya, this elemental. It's from Zendikar. Nissa summoned it to help her fight the Eldrazi. It's a fragment of the world soul of Zendikar, and a pretty cool card in its own right. This card uses Discover, which is actually from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, but is flavorfully relevant on Zendikar as well, so that seems neat. Yeah, just cool to be able to see a sorcery in the command zone, yeah, just in regular Commander. Next up, we have Elda, Conjurer of Spectacle. 2, a green and a white, for a 2/2 legendary human wizard that says the first non-legendary creature spell you cast each turn has Demonstrate. Demonstrate is a rad mechanic that lets you make a copy of one of your spells and give a copy of that spell to another player as well, and theirs resolves first, and then your copy, and then your original. It was originally introduced in the Commander 2021 product, which is the secret or the original Strixhaven Commander decks. Even though Elda doesn't look exactly like she's from Strixhaven, to me this reads as either New Capenna with all the sort of Art Deco going on in the background and on her and the unicorn's accoutrement. But it could also be, I don't know, Unfinity. Probably it's not from the Universe. But yeah, the Elda seems really sweet with this sort of demonstrate effect. And it's being able to demonstrate non-instants and sorceries, which is not really a thing before Elda, other than with Silverquill Lecturer. This is something that we only just a couple of years got, and so now Elda gives it the first non-legendary creature each turn as well. So that seems neat. Next, we have Selenia, the Cursed Heart. 4, a white and a black, for a 2/5 legendary angel warrior with flying and lifelink that says if we would gain life, we gain twice that much life instead. And when Selenia dies, we make a legendary black Aura Curse enchantment token named Selenia's Curse, attached to target opponent. The token has enchant player, and if enchanted player would lose life, they lose twice that much life. So this is a reference to Selenia, Dark Angel, from way back in Tempest. Selenia is the angel on Dominaria that was killed by Krovax and subsequently made him into a vampire, and that's the curse reference that we've got here. As you can see, our sort of life manipulation theme that we have going on with Selenia is a reference to her original card. Yeah, and interestingly, this art has already been used in Magic on her Vanguard card. Remember Vanguard? Yeah, seems neat. Interestingly, though, this art was used on a card that causes all of our attacking creatures to have vigilance, essentially. But Selenia the Cursed Heart does not herself have vigilance or give it out to everyone else. Yeah, I guess this is much more of a reference of the original Dark Angel card. But yeah, really cool. Next up is Itazura Lingering Wick. This is 2, a blue and a red, for a 1/5 legendary spirit that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Each opponent secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then those numbers are revealed. Choose an opponent with the highest number, and Itazura deals that much damage to them, and then they may cast a spell from among those cards without paying its mana cost. You put a card from among them that wasn't cast this way into your hand. So Itazura is clearly a kami from Kamigawa. This is a spirit creature that has, you know, the little floaties around it, much as we can see here in Hinata. You've always got some little floating things that are some sort of light source or form of light, you know, floating around any kind of enchantment creature or spirit type creature on Kamigawa. And to go along with the naming scheme from original Kamigawa block, the name comes from a translation of a Japanese word. In this case, the word is mischief, so it seems pretty cute. It is a minigame card. Minigame cards are really fun, you know. I think it might be a very, very, very thin reference to Mind Blaze, which is from original Champions of Kamigawa. because it also has us do a little mini game that involves choosing numbers and doing damage and that kind of thing. So very thin reference, but I think it's there maybe. Also, interestingly, concept art for this piece came from Jaehan Chu's work in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty for the concept art for that. So yeah, cool references there. Next, we have Davol Evenkarv Wrath. This is 2, a black and a green for a 2/2 legendary Phyrexian noble that says whenever another creature you control enters, you lose a life and you add a black mana to your mana pool. So Davol was the first ruler, the Evenkar, of Wrath, after he was just a traitorous human that was partly completed during the story of Urza's saga, of the story of the novel Bloodlines. And all of that is very nice, but what we're actually doing here is we're making a cute reference to the card Carnival of Souls. Here's Davol with some really memorable flavor text. Davol, blast those elves. Davol, transport those troops. No one cares that today is my birthday. This is just very, very silly art and or silly flavor text. And I guess the art is pretty silly too, just the sort of face that he's doing. And you can see, of course, the Phyrexian symbol on his staff. And so, the new flavor text is, returned from your hunt, I hope you've brought me something good for my birthday. So yeah, this is a real bad guy with a very, very silly sort of a heritage within Magic. Love to see Davol back. Next, we have Chief Magistrate of Mercadia. This is 4, a red and a white for a 3/3 legendary human noble that says when Chief Magistrate of Mercadia enters, you become the monarch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 2/1 red goblin creature token with haste, and then if you're the monarch, for each creature token you control, create a token that's a copy of it. So this is a reference to the entire story of Mercadian Masks. There's a lot going on here, but ultimately, it's just the reference to the unnamed Chief Magistrate of Mercadia, who was nominally the ruler of Mercadia City, but really was a puppet of the Chiron and of Volrath. Later, he was killed by Orim using a blow dart, a Chiron blow dart, during the revolution on Mercadia, and that's really cool. I really like the fact that this is like a person who is nominally the ruler, who like seems to be the ruler, but is surrounded by quote-unquote advisors who are doing all the actual ruling. Don't envy being this person. Interestingly, also, this uses the Monarch mechanic, and I'm using Queen Marchesa here, who's actually from Fiora, not Mercadia. They are kind of similar if you look back on them, and you're not a person who played during either set. But yeah, using the Monarch mechanic that was introduced much later than the Mercadian Masks block on this sort of ruler of a city just seems like a cool connection there. I like that. Next up is Rakala Homarid King. This is 1, a green and a blue for a 0/4 legendary lobster noble that says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a tide counter on Rakala. Then, if there are 4 or more tide counters on Rakala, remove them. Creatures you control get +1/+0 for each tide counter on Rakala, and whenever you tap an island for mana, if there are 3 or more tide counters on Rakala, add an additional blue mana. So you heard me sadly say that this type is a legendary lobster noble. It's because Rakala is a Homarid from the original Homarids that we first got to see in Fallen Empires, which even I've mentioned a couple of times not having any understanding of what was a good card back in the 90s. Even in the 90s, I knew Fallen Empires was a bad set. I was very sad about all of these Fallen Empires cards I kept buying, and then I finally said, I gotta stop doing this, I gotta buy something else. Anyway, Homarids are a really funny, nostalgic creature type in Magic. We've seen them as recently as at least Thunder Junction. Maybe we've seen a different one since then. In any case, I like Homarids, and they're a nice callback. So changing them to lobsters is probably something we're going to see more of in Noctis, the Sunken City, or the Sunken Realm, whatever it's called, the new set that's coming out at the start of 2027. And they're probably going to be lobsters, and that's fine. Wizards has been consolidating animal people type creature types for a while. So yeah, I didn't expect the Homarids to really survive, but I am sad to see them go. In any case, what's cool about Rakala is it has tide counters, which from the original Homarid card, it also uses tide counters. So that's pretty neat. And it does a sort of Bounty of the Luxa, I think is what it's called, from Amonkhet. Does a thing where you gain more and more tide counters, and then the tide goes back out. And the coolest part of it is that once you have the most tide counters you can have, which is 3, since when you get 4, they go away, it gives you a high tide effect, making your islands tap for an extra blue, which is pretty sweet. Also, it is notable that there is a Viscerid Deepwalker Hominid that has the same kind of +1/+0 benefit as Rakalla's second ability. But yeah, I just like to see King of Hominids. Look at all these little hominids looking up. If I were playing this card, I would say that this Rakalla is not actually king of the hominids. This is just a bunch of little baby hominids that he's surrounded himself with, because that's what the perspective looks like to me. So yeah. Next, we have Feroz, Ulgratha's Warden. We got a lot of Ulgratha bangers. Maybe the Mystery Booster Commander Edition team were fans of Homelands. This is a 5 loyalty Feroz Planeswalker for 3, a green, a white, and a blue. It says +2, make 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying. For 0, we can draw a card and then put a permanent with mana value 4 or less from our hand onto the battlefield. And for -7, we make a token copy of Feroz's Ban. And of course, Feroz can be our commander. So Feroz was an important character, like I mentioned, in the story of Homelands, particularly the Armada comics. He was a planeswalker, husband to Sarah, who I've mentioned a couple of times, and he helped defend the plane from Baron Sengir, who was a big, bad, evil vampire guy who had crossed multiple planes and is the origin of the Sengir vampires from original Alpha. So yeah, Feroz's abilities are all references to things he did or that connect to him. He used to ride giant albatrosses as steeds, so he makes bird tokens. The second ability doesn't reference anything specifically, but it can put something mana value 4 or less from our hand onto the battlefield, which is him summoning Sarah, his wife. Seems pretty neat. And then his ultimate creates Feroz's Ban, which is a ridiculous card. An artifact for 6 that makes all of our creature spells cost 2 more is terrible. It works on our opponents as well, but it just goes to show you back in the day, they made creatures, they didn't expect you to actually play them over your other spells. But anyway, this is a cool part of Feroz's story, because he created this sort of bubble around Ulgratha, as represented here by a bottle around the planet, which is the set symbol for Homelands. It was meant to protect his friend Sandru from attacks that were inspired by Taysir of Rabia's attacks. Basically just to protect Ulgratha from planeswalkers, in a way we've kind of seen happen in other times in Magic, with Dominaria, with Ravnica, and so forth. Ultimately, this causes Feroz's death, unfortunately, but, originally Ulgratha was the dark, sad gothic plane of Magic that sort of, Innistrad has taken the place of, and Innistrad's a lot more on the nose with it, and that's fair. We need that kind of fiction in our stories. But I miss Ulgratha, and I hope we get to go back at some point and, revamp it somehow. So yeah, that's Feroz. Next we have Lina, Veil of Vengeance. A white, a blue, and a black for a 2/3 legendary Soltari Cleric with Shadow that says whenever a creature we control with Shadow deals combat damage to a player, we draw a card. And for 3 generic mana, at sorcery speed, we can put a Shadow counter on another target creature. Pretty cool. This is just a reference to an emissary of the Soltari way back in the day, who helped out the Weatherlight crew as they tried to escape Wrath. Just a neat creature that references some old stuff. Her abilities sort of call back to her pulling Ertai into the shadows to help her people. And this is another instance of her art having been used on her Vanguard card beforehand, which would have given all creatures Shadow. Kind of neat. Next up is the Madcap Jester. 1, a blue, a black, and a red for a 3/2 legendary Clown Wizard that says whenever the Madcap Jester attacks, each opponent exiles the top card of their library, and whenever a spell or ability we control causes 1 or more cards to be exiled from an opponent's library, we may play those cards until the end of our next turn, and mana of any type can be spent to cast spells this way. So this is obviously a reference to Jester's Cap. Way back in Ice Age, we got to have this card that lets us look through an opponent's library and take out 3 cards. We get to just mess with our opponent. Also, Jester's Mask, which also lets us look through their library and gives them a new hand. This Jester, even when Cold Snap came around, got a Scepter. So all of these cards interact with our opponent's library the way that the Madcap Jester kind of does and the Madcap Jester cares about. But I think the best reference here, it's another Jesper Aysen. I'm sorry, I'll never be able to pronounce this guy's name correctly. But we got to see a reprint of Jester's Cap in Dominaria Remastered with his art that gives us this massive, massive frill around his neck, and so we get to see the same character again. I'm a big fan of this art, and I just love this big, big smile. It seems really great. And we're going to stay in the 90s with Tressorhorn's Lord Returned. This is 2, a blue, a black, and a red for a 10-4 legendary zombie noble with trample and indestructible. Already pretty nice. But when he enters, we have to sacrifice him, unless we sacrifice 3 creatures, pay 3 life, and have target opponent draw 3 cards. But whenever we sacrifice a creature, we draw a card ourselves. So Grixis sacrifice shenanigans seems pretty good. This is a reference, of course, to the Lord of Tressorhorn, the zombie leader of Tressorhorn's Undead that was supposed to be a substitute for Lim-Dûl after Lim-Dûl was defeated in his own battle. The Lord of Tressorhorn was killed by Jodah and Jaya, but was supposed to be reconstructed in exchange for a truce, but it was never actually confirmed that the Lord of Tressorhorn was rebuilt, so maybe this card is a confirmation of that. And he has an ability that is, or his enter effect is similar to that of the Lord of Tressorhorn, except more expensive. But yeah, otherwise he matches the Lord of Tressorhorn in colors and power and toughness. So yeah, neat. All right, let's go back to Ravnica with the Muckslinger gang. This is 1, a black, a red, and a green for a 3/3 legendary goblin lizard beast. As you can see in the art, left to right, there's a goblin, a lizard, and a beast that says each other creature you control gets +3/+3 as long as it's not attacking or blocking. And creature spells you control and creature cards you own in any zone other than the battlefield or the stack also get +3/+3. So you get stronger if you're not really doing anything with these creatures. Maybe this is the laziness club in Ravnica. In any case, this is a funny card with cool references. Apparently, this gang applied to be the 11th guild to Niv Mizzet the Guild Pact, and he just said no, which makes sense because all the guilds. Maybe this is something Niv knows now that he's the Guild Pact, or maybe he already did. All the guilds are based on 2-color pairs, and this is a 3-color combination. This is Jund, so that's not a Ravnica guild. And there is a little bit of theme of a 3s in here. There's 3 creatures, there's 3 subtypes. It's a 3/3, it's in 3 colors, and it gives +3/+3 to your other stuff, your other creatures and creature spells. So kind of neat. I would love to see someone do something with this. It just seems like a lot of fun. Also, much like Boss Ahriman? One of those, the Kamigawa legend that we saw a little bit ago. This was a piece of art that was originally meant for Magic Arena China as an alternate to Gruesome Menagerie, for the same reasons as before. The laws in China regarding depictions of the dead or of skeletons. So yeah. Okay, we're going almost all the way back to the beginning with Jandor Fortuned Traveler. This is 1, a red, a green, and a white for a 2/4 legendary human citizen that says each beast, camel, horse, elephant, and wolf creature you control is a mount in addition to its other types and has Saddle too. You remember Saddle from Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Ether Drift? It's back. And whenever a saddled creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, draw a card, and make a food token. So Jandor is from Arabia, the setting of Arabian Nights, the first expansion to Magic. And this is a reference to his saddlebags and his ring. It's pretty neat. The ring lets us draw cards, which is why Jandor lets us draw a card when a saddled creature attacks. Have saddlebags. That's why we're saddling things in the first place. And notably, the flavor text for Jandor saddlebags lists a whole bunch of delicious things, and they're all pictured in this art for Jandor. I really, really like this. I don't know, there's just a warmth to this art. Justin Gerard did a great job of this, and all the food looks good. He just seems so happy. His horse and the background, I'm a big fan of this. Great. All right, next up we have a really weird one. This is Sagan Raider Warlord. A red, a white, and a black for a 1/4 legendary dinosaur berserker with double strike and start your engines. More Ether Drift stuff. Whenever Sagan attacks, creatures we control get +1/+0 until end of turn for each creature we control with first strike or double strike. And when we have max speed, Sagan has Death Touch, and other creatures we control have first strike. So that really interacts well with his attack trigger. So Sagan is interesting. He's got a cool flavor to him. Apparently he's from Murganda. He attempted to hijack the Grand Prix, which was the plot of Ether Drift, for the Saurid autocracy. And that's pretty neat. But what's even neater is he's from Alchemy. This is the very first digital-only card, or digital-only legendary creature, that is, to be printed in paper and to become eternal legal. That's neat. You know, he works in Alchemy totally fine, but he's also always worked just as well in paper, so we might as well see him in paper. That just seems really neat to be able to have that, and so hopefully this is the start of them printing some digital-only cards that would have already been legal in paper, in paper. Next up, we have Zagorka, Mother of Sanctum. This is 1, a green, a blue, and a red for a 4/2 legendary human peasant with vigilance and trample that says at the beginning of your end step, each player may create a tapped land token named Sanctum with tap to add 1 mana of any color. And each opponent who does can't attack you during their next turn. So a really cool reference to the story of Onslaught. Zagorka was originally a leader of refugees that looked for sanctuary with her mule, who she's standing on top of, named Chester, in a place that appeared to be a city named Sanctum. That's why she makes Sanctum tokens. It was actually one of the Numena, named Averu, that had kind of gone to sleep, and it's a long story. Onslaught, as you can see, has 3 novels associated with it. But what's cool about this is not only does she make tokens of Sanctum, which is the city she discovered, but also if you look at her color identity of Temur and you add the colors white and black to it, then you get 5 colors, which references the fact that eventually these 3 women, Zagorka, Akroma, and Phage, were combined in the rebirth of Corona. This is something that happened in Legions, and just very funny to me. Like, how can we refer to Zagorka? We'll make her the colors that combine with these other 2 creatures to make Corona. Just interesting ways that they design cards. And also, just seems like a cool creature. A 4/2 trample with vigilance that makes lands and protects us, because these are refugees, so if you found Sanctum, you don't need to be going attacking, at least for us. I don't know. I like it. Next up, we have Olag and Meow, new friends. A white, a black, and a green for a 3/3 legendary zombie cat that says whenever another zombie you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target cat you control. And whenever another cat you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target zombie you control. And at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped cats and or zombies you control. So this is really cool. Cute cat, scary monster person. This is a reference to Ludovic, the Necrogenius, who created Olag. This horrifying, incredible Ryan Pancoast art that was a big, scary zombie that was apparently way too kind for Ludovic to want to, I don't know, use it or value them. Not really sure what the right way to say this is, but yeah, Olag was just a nice person that was created by Ludovic and locked away, and that's pretty sad. Until Harmless Offering was made, which is a reference to an older Innistrad card, but you can see that it's essentially the same little kitty, and obviously its name is Meow, so there you go. Just a nice connection of 2 things, and a nice moment among all these like dark and scary early 2000s, stories from Magic, like Onslaught and what have you. Here we go. Next, we have Massimo the Magician. This is blue, red, and white, 1 of each, for a 3/2 legendary cat wizard that says whenever Massimo or another creature we control enters, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery with mana value 1 from your graveyard. If a card is exiled this way, that creature gains, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, copy the exiled spell, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So we sort of cipher a card from our graveyard onto a creature? Yeah, Massimo is doing some interesting things here. Massimo is obviously from Arcavios, the plane of Strixhaven, as you can see from the rock formation behind it. I know that there's a name for those arches. It interestingly synergizes with the stuff that Lorehold does of pulling things out of the graveyard, and the things that Prismari does by triggering Magecraft and Opus by casting these spells, which is why it's white and red and blue and red. It's the combination. You might call this an interdisciplinary student, even though they're clearly dressed like a Prismari student. Interestingly, also, Massimo is the first individual creature from Arcavios that is 3 or more colors, and the second card overall, technically, because we've seen Zimone and Dina, the combo team up from March of the Machine, which is a pretty fun one. And there have been other cards from Strixhaven sets that are 3 colors, like the original Extus, if you count the backside, was Mardu colors. So yeah, something to think about. But what most people, at least online, have noticed about Massimo is that Massimo is a little bit like Flubs. But how? Well, look at Flubs' pose and the fact that he has the epithet the Fool. Flubs looks like the Major Arcana for the Fool. And Massimo looks like the Major Arcana for the Magician. So there's this interesting tarot connection. And, as soon as people started noticing this online, I was seeing people saying, oh, they're going to make the entire deck. Maybe all the Major Arcana. We don't know about the whole deck. But yeah, just seems like a really cool connection there. Especially because we go next into Homer the Hermit. This is a black, a green, and a blue for a 0/9 legendary crab druid with landfall. Whenever a land we control enters any number of target players, each mill X cards, where X is twice the number of crabs, lobsters, nautiluses, starfish, and or trilobites we control. Notably, it says lobsters, so one more note toward the hominids, probably. So yeah, Homer, the reason he's connected here is because he looks like the hermit, and he's a hermit crab. It's mirrored, but he's facing one way, he's holding up a lantern. Just kind of a neat thing to be able to see here. In addition, he is a creature that's a crab that is 0 power, has high toughness, and landfall mills cards, so it's kind of a ruin crab, which is a legendary ruin crab. That seems pretty neat. Yeah, so the sort of 3-in-1 designs that we've seen from things like Modern Horizons, like Healer's Flock and Llanowar Tribe, it's almost like Homer is 3 ruin crabs in a trench coat or in a shell. So yeah. Next up, we have Ugu, the Omniplasm. This is a black, a green, and a blue for a 2/2 legendary ooze that says, whenever another non-token ooze creature you control dies, create 2 tokens that are copies of that creature, except they're 2/2 and they aren't legendary. So this is a cool reference to things like the Mimeoplasm or, Mitotic Slime, any kind of creature that is a D&D style ochre jelly, an ooze where if you split it in half, you get 2 copies of it, and sometimes they get smaller, sometimes they don't, like with Ugu, they just become 2/2s, and that just seems pretty neat. We've seen effects like this on other cards, like Saw in Half or Rata-Drawback of Urborg. Yeah, just seems like a lot of fun, especially in Sultai colors. Next up, we have Nephilim Epochal. Hybrid Izzet, Hybrid Gruul, Hybrid Selesnya, and Hybrid Orzhov mana gives us a 4/4 legendary Elder Nephilim that says, when it enters, search your library for a Nephilim card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle, and Nephilim you control get +1/+1 for each other Nephilim you control and can't be blocked by monocolored creatures. This is, of course, the long-awaited legendary Nephilim to go with the Nephilim cards. The original 5 4-color commanders that we saw way back in Guild Pact that players have been asking for Wizards to errata into legendary creatures forever, because for a long time these are the cards people went to for making a 4-color commander deck. Are they good cards? Not really. but they are 4 colors, and they're weird and neat, and they're from Ravnica, and we don't really know what their deal is. But now we have a legendary version of them that can search one of them up if we needed to. Interestingly, this is a creature that can be a 4-color hybrid mana, like all of the Nephilim themselves, and 3 of those symbols reference the 3 Ravnica guilds of Guild Pact, the Izzet, the Gruul, and the Orzhov, which was the set where the Nephilim were, of course, originally printed. Its flavor text starts with "When it awoke," just like all the other Nephilim. And so, yeah, it's just a really neat, like, answer to a question that doesn't require the wizards to errata things, but it lets you play any of these Nephilim in your deck, or all of them if you really feel like it. Cool. Finally, we have Arzakon. Arzakon is a 4-loyalty Arzakon Planeswalker for Wooburg that has +2, Arzakon deals 3 damage to any other target, -3, make a Black Lotus token, and -7, each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library and then draws 7 cards, and of course Arzakon can be your commander. So this is the final boss from the Microprose Magic the Gathering computer game released in the 90s. Most players call this Chandelar because that's the name of the plane that it comes from, and it's the creation of that plane of Chandelar, which we've seen in Magic's lore since then. It's where the Onake are, the Chain Veil, and so forth. Chandelar is abandonware, so search around the internet if you want to play it. It's really fun. There's a lot of community-driven efforts to update it for current operating systems, and it still holds up as a really great game and a look back into the Magic of the 90s. I've played this recently. It's still terrific. I recommend you check it out. Arzakon's abilities, as you can probably tell, are +2, Lightning Bolt something, -3, get a Black Lotus, and -7, Time Twister. So we've got 2 loyalty abilities that just give us a piece of Tower 9. That's just amazing. Really, really like Arzakon here. I like the fact that he's Wooburg because it's sort of a connection back to his deck being so huge and ridiculous and full of all the powerful spells. It really was like a 5-color, like, play all your best cards soup, 5-color good stuff, for a 100 life enemy, which was ridiculous back in that game. Also very funny that if you get to the point where you're playing against Arzakon, you've already beaten the game. It's just that every point of damage you do to him banishes him for 1 extra year. It's very funny. Really love Chandelar, so I recommend anyone who hasn't played it to go play it, and if you have played it, go play it again. And that sums it up. Again, I can't thank you enough for helping me hit 1,000 subscribers. This has been a goal of mine since I started the channel about 14 months ago, and I'm having a great time. If you want to see how things began and watch a recap of my first year, check out my first year highlight reel linked in the video's description. So, thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to support what I do here, make sure to like and subscribe. Ring the bell if you want to be notified when my videos go live. Consider joining this channel on YouTube, or check out my Patreon at patreon.com/secondmonitormagic. And remember, most of all, that magic is fun. You should play more Magic.